So one of the problems I've had with this kiln from the day I bought it, really, I never had a whole lot of problems with it. My friend George, my mentor, he always had a problem with it because he always makes giant stuff, and I don't make giant stuff, I make little stuff. But I have run into this very recently. This door is only, this might be 1 3/4. Let me measure that. Well, doesn't matter. So this tubing is this is the biggest tubing that I work with, and it just barely, by the hair of its chinny chin chin, fits inside of this hole. Now, I'm going to do something that I have been railing against doing for, a good 20 years. I'm going to cut this hole a little bit bigger. I already got down. So the joke here is, there's a couple jokes. One is, I don't put my knees on the floor without a knee pad anymore, because I'm getting old. The other thing I don't do is I don't cut stainless steel without safety glasses on. You should wear your safety glasses anyway, but stainless steel has a tendency to be non-magnetic, and therefore when you go to the doctors to get it removed, they have to dig it out with a needle as opposed to just using a magnet. So take that for what it's worth. Voice of experience. So like I said, I was steadfast against doing this for years, but part of the reason I was steadfast against doing it is because I didn't have any way to close this door. Well, now I do. So the game plan is, I'm going to attach the flap up here, probably right here, with some screws and a piece of unistrapping. I wanted to make a nice, pretty stainless, or not stainless, aluminum piece to hold this in place. And then I had an epiphany that A, I don't need that, and B, keep it simple, stupid. There's no reason to do that. If that fails, here it is. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to pick which side of this is nicer, which I think is this side. I'm going to put that on there like that. I'm going to mark it and drill it and run some threaded tech screws in very carefully. And then that'll solve the problem. Oh yes, I also cut myself on a piece of glass, which is funny because I'm not actually working with glass. I bent over to grab something and slipped my finger open. Why wouldn't I? So, yeah, I think this is actually like 1 3/4 heavy wall, because I know this is 2 inches and this just barely fits in here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take my Sharpie here. That fiberglass is everywhere. And I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut this piece of banding something like that. Now that still gives me plenty of meat up here, and it shouldn't impact this brick too much. It may actually move this. I may actually do it over here. Alright, so I gotta get another marker because I've made too many marks on this. Let's wipe that marker off. I don't want to get too close to the edge of the brick, because the last thing I want is that brick to fall or collapse. Nothing like some 2+2 to make the cut in your finger burn even more. And away it goes. The other thing I'm going to do is move my flammable rag away from where I'm going to be flinging sparks. I also moved the kiln. I rotated the kiln away from my bench. I don't want the stainless all over the place. So let's mark this out a little bit more. Yeah, see, George had already kind of nibbled away at the inside of this thing years ago when he came over to help me out, give me a lesson. And I think that's going to work. All right, so I'm going to put my thinking cigarette away. The stainless is actually kind of thin, so I'm actually a little worried about it, but we'll see. I'm also wearing hearing protection. This particular saw is like crazy noisy. Don't worry, I'm going to turn the audio down so you don't have to listen to it. I'm going to use the wiggle it till it falls off method. Oh, wonderful. All right. So we have plenty of burrs on that thing. A nice piece of razor sharp stainless steel, which is pretty much as thick as I thought it was. It's actually a little thinner than I thought it was going to be. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a rasp out and I'm going to make this hole bigger. I'm not going to go all the way to where I cut it, that's for sure. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with those burrs. I think I might leave them. This stuff is so thin that it's not going to want to be cleaned up a whole lot. So I'm going to go grab a rasp and I'm going to rasp away this. And I am probably going to have to do something with that because I just... Alright. I would suggest wearing a dust mask while doing this, but you don't need to. You probably should, but obviously I'm not. I like to live dangerously. I'm going to get the vacuum out and clean all this up. I need to clean the inside of the kiln up anyway. I don't want to take too much off. You probably can't see on the camera, but I need to get in here and do a... I want to shape it a little. Sharp edges have a tendency to crack, so I'm going to kind of round that out a little bit. Take this piece out of here. I'm going to have to redo all this and vacuum this thing out anyway. So this actually shows a pretty good how big this door actually is. I mean, this is a pretty big door here. I put the other piece of wood in there, or the other refractory block in there, and that piece is going to stay there forever. I'm not going to take that out. I'm not going to incorporate that. I don't need... Smoke another one. Suck in that refractory product. I'm sure is so good for my health. You can see just this rasp this is a cheese grater from the Body Shop. But you can tell, I mean, this material is so delicate that it's just collapsing. I don't really want to go a whole lot more with this. I don't want to damage this brick any more than I need to. I don't want to get too close to the edge. I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to call that. And I'm going to grab my vacuum cleaner real quick. Oh. I'm going to try this with a stone. Normally I would use a deburring tool, a die grinder, but I think That might be a little bit too aggressive. This stone may be too aggressive too. All right. Discretion is the better part of valor. I'm going to leave that burr there because it's going to be covered. I hate it, but oh well. Okay, now the next thing I need to do, yeah, fuck that. That's asking for trouble right there. If I was going to burn this back, if I was going to sand the refractory product all the way back to where I cut it, I would deburr it, but because I'm not going to do that. Now, the next thing I want to do is mark these holes. All right. And I think what I may do here, actually, what I am going to do here is I'm going to mark these, and then I'm going to drill them and put the bolts in. Then I'm going to put this on. Because this is going to go just like that. And that gives me plenty of room here. Okay, so that will seal that whole thing up, and it'll go around the edge. And then it's nice and floppy, so it should be okay. And hopefully this stuff won't shrink when it gets hot. And then it'll take it around both corners, so that'll work just fine. Drilling through the fiberglass and the steel at the same time is not going to work. That's a recipe for disaster, I can promise that. Well, all my friends like to be around when I fuck up, so well, here's your opportunity. All right, so I'm going to put that right there. I'm not going to measure this thing. Why would I measure anything? All right, so we're gonna, first thing I gotta do is make sure I don't interfere with this control box. And that's where the control box goes. That's where that's gonna go. Now, ere for the grace of God go I. I sure as hell hope I don't break. I'm really concerned about chipping this. Really concerned about chipping the block with the center punch. I need to note that this is a absolutely 100% brand new, just took it out of the package, Black Beauty 1/8" drill bit. My experience with stainless has been that it really loves to make a mess. I'm going to take a look inside of here real quick, make sure I didn't screw anything up too bad. It would be nice if I was a little bit more organized. There it is. Scared the hell out of me. All right. Okay. I was originally going to use the little holes here, but the little holes are too small. So we're going to use the big holes. And gotta get another tool. This also gives me a little bit of adjustment room. Now, I'm going to put another one there. A spring-loaded center punch is probably not the tool I should be using on this, but you have to center punch things. Now, I am fairly sure that the manufacturer doesn't pre-drill these holes. They're just using the zip screws. I guarantee it. I am not that. I'm not that confident. I'm not going to put a ton of these in either. Every time I drill a hole in this thing, I'm kind of taking away a little bit of its life in my head. Alright. So, I'm going to put one here and one there. And I am going to do one at a time. Just, I'm literally incredibly nervous about this. It's totally within my wheelhouse, but I'm just not. I just know that projects like this can go sideways. In a split second. Things can go bad. And we really don't want anything to go bad here. I should probably put one here, but that falls right on the seam. And you know, it doesn't matter, I don't think. Because it's actually screwing through the stainless, not the, I mean, it's going into the refractory brick, but it's not actually holding in the brick. Oof. I could feel it move everything. Spring-loaded center punch is actually a pretty powerful tool. And yes, I'm using my own thumb as a stop, because why not? All right. Now, I'm going to mark that one, that one, that one, and that one. Now let's see if I can force the screws through the fiberglass. Every time you take a tech screw in and out, you ruin whatever it is that you're screwing into. So you got to be kind of careful with them. They are some of my favorite tools, but they're also imagine that. Okay. So it looks like I'm going to be able to. It looks like I'm going to be able to just force the screws through. Which is a good thing. Make sure it's kind of level, kind of straight. Years and years and years ago, when I was a wee lad working in the body shop, I had to put a headliner in a guy's car First time I'd ever done a headliner. Long story short, I ended up buying a headliner because I used a power drill to put some screws in. The drill caught the headliner and sucked it around the inside of the, sucked it around that drill bit like a cartoon. It was also the same year I burned a hole in a seat. A brand new, freshly covered seat. Ruined that pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to finish putting these in by hand. I just wanted to use the power tool to get them started. I'm going to take a quick, there's no way it's broken through. I used the shortest screws I could. Look at that. All right, I'm going to reset this back up in its proper position. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to put everything back the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to vacuum up my mess, and then I'm going to do a quick simulation to make sure it works. You know, I'm not 100% finished putting this thing in its final position here, but obviously because the controller's still hanging off of it. But it looks to me like I've created exactly what I want, which is a flap here on the door. I can put 2-inch tubing in there all day long and not have a problem. Now there is gonna be a little gap at the bottom, right? But it's better than it was. The other thing I did was I hemmed this piece of fiberglass, which I don't know how well that's going to work. I don't know how well this is going to work. This edge here, if it starts to lose itself, I'm not too worried about it, but we'll see. This is a little short, I think, maybe. I don't know. The other thing I may have to do is I may actually have to put a little handle on this thing, because I guarantee you this is going to get hot. So what I may do is put a little, you know, I don't know, something on here. I should put like a little tab on it, what have you, so I can pull it open. But that looks like it's going to work. So, you know, at the end of the day when I'm done working, I can just push this thing shut, and there you go. But, you know, and even, yeah, it looks like I could even do that if I had to, which would absolutely melt those if I put a hot piece of glass in there. So I think that's going to solve my problem. We'll find out. You know, push comes to shove, I can always modify this because, well, I have the tools and the talent. But that's the way that works. So I can garage multiple pieces at one time. I no longer have to worry about clipping this. A lot of times I don't have a marble here, but a lot of times I'll go to put a marble into the mold. I'll go to put a marble in here, and I was clipping this. So this is the marble mold that I use, and if I was putting in a big marble, like an 1.5 inch or a 2-inch marble, as I was sliding it into here, I was clipping this on the way in, and it was screwing my marbles up. So that's another reason for me to do that. And then really, this is an extreme example of what I would be garaging. What I would be leaving in here at the end of the day. This is more what I would leave in here. Just to say, this is a a rod, and then you could just push that down. And that keeps it a lot more sealed than the way it was. The other thing I might do is I have some more of that fiberglass, so I think I'm going to make another one of these. Since my sewing machine's out, I'm going to take and I'm going to hem up another piece of fiberglass so it's not all over the place. I've got plenty of this stuff that I can futz around with. So I'm going to make another blanket that I can just throw over it as a supplemental. I may even just use this stuff because I don't have to go crazy hemming it, and I've got plenty of it. This was a pain in the ass to hem. So the next video is going to be setting up the PID controller and figuring out how I'm going to mount that. The PID controller can't be mounted to this kiln. I might be able to do something. I might be able to do something on here, but we'll see. I may have to remotely mount it. I don't ever actually plan on moving this kiln again in a significant way. So what I may do is actually mount the kiln controller to this base here that I'm using.